It all started with a number that sent shockwaves through global shipping: $1.6 million. This wasn't just any figure, it was a staggering new port fee, and its announcement rippled across the industry, leaving shipping executives and global markets reeling. Overnight, what had been routine business became a high-stakes gamble, with every shipment now carrying a new layer of risk and uncertainty. That was the sudden port fee China imposed on U.S. ships, a bold move in the ongoing economic chess match between two superpowers. The timing was no accident, it was a calculated response, a signal that China was ready to push back hard against mounting U.S. tariffs and restrictions. For many, it marked a new phase in the trade war, one where the costs would be felt not just in boardrooms, but in everyday life. For shipping companies, this was a direct hit, escalating the trade war and turning ports into battlegrounds. Suddenly, every arrival and departure was fraught with tension. Shipping schedules were thrown into chaos, insurance premiums soared, and the threat of further escalation loomed over every transaction. The once invisible arteries of global trade were now front and center in a geopolitical standoff. The fees were seen as retaliation for similar U.S. charges on Chinese vessels, creating a costly cycle with consumers ultimately paying the price. Each side accused the other of unfair practices, but it was businesses and families who felt the squeeze. The tit-for-tat measures meant higher costs for importers and exporters, and those costs inevitably trickled down to the price tags on store shelves. Every ship between the two nations was now caught in the crossfire, and the $1.6 million fee became a symbol of the deepening rift. Shipping lines scrambled to reroute vessels, avoid delays, and negotiate waivers, but the uncertainty was relentless. The fee wasn't just a number, it was a warning shot, a sign that the rules of global trade were being rewritten in real time. Industry leaders warned of disruptions to everything from electronics to household goods, raising the stakes for businesses and families worldwide. The ripple effects were immediate: delayed shipments, empty shelves, and rising prices. Small businesses, already stretched thin, faced tough choices about inventory and staffing. Even multinational corporations with their vast resources struggled to adapt to the new normal. The world watched, wondering if the fees would climb higher or if other sectors would be drawn in. A stark reminder of how quickly political tensions can cause real-world pain. News outlets ran constant updates, and analysts speculated about the next move. Would the standoff spread to other industries like technology or agriculture? Or would cooler heads prevail before the damage became irreversible? The port fee standoff was more than a trade dispute. It was a critical test of U.S.-China relations, with the global economy hanging in the balance. As negotiators met behind closed doors, the world held its breath, knowing that the outcome would shape not just the future of shipping, but the fate of countless industries and livelihoods around the globe. Just as tensions between the world's two largest economies reached a boiling point, a breakthrough finally arrived, catching many by surprise and offering a glimmer of hope to an industry under immense strain. On November 10, 2025, after weeks of marathon negotiations and mounting pressure from global businesses, the United States and China announced a landmark agreement. Both sides would suspend the costly port fees for a full year. This decision came after intense behind-the-scenes discussions, with diplomats and trade representatives working late into the night to hammer out the details. The truce offered a much-needed pause, immediately easing the financial burden on shipping companies that had been struggling to stay afloat. For months, these fees had threatened to disrupt the flow of goods, driving up costs for businesses and consumers alike. Now, with the suspension in place, the battered shipping industry could finally catch its breath and begin to recover. While this agreement wasn't a final resolution to the underlying disputes, it sent a powerful message. Dialogue and cooperation were still possible, even in the midst of fierce competition and political tension. The willingness to come to the table signaled a shift in tone, raising hopes for more constructive engagement in the future. For businesses around the world, the news brought an immediate sense of relief. Companies that rely on the world's busiest trade route could once again plan shipments and manage costs with greater confidence. The restoration of some predictability allowed executives to focus on growth and innovation, rather than crisis management. By agreeing to suspend the fees, both governments demonstrated a shared interest in stabilizing not just their own economies, but also the global supply chains that connect markets across continents. This move was seen as a sign of goodwill and a recognition that economic interdependence requires careful stewardship, especially in turbulent times. The one-year window gives the industry a rare opportunity to operate without the looming threat of extra costs. However, it also sets a clear deadline for negotiators to address the deeper, more complex issues that sparked the dispute in the first place. The clock is now ticking for both sides to find lasting solutions. In many ways, the truce is a diplomatic timeout, a brief moment of calm in an otherwise stormy relationship. But with the clock ticking, everyone knows this peace is temporary, and the pressure to make progress is mounting. The agreement took effect immediately, creating a more stable environment for companies to plan voyages, set prices, and coordinate logistics. For now, the shipping lanes are open, and the flow of goods can continue with fewer obstacles. But the big question remains, can this fragile truce hold, and will it pave the way for a more permanent solution? Or is it simply a pause before the next round of conflict? Only time will tell if this agreement marks the beginning of a new era of cooperation, or just a brief respite in an ongoing struggle. So, what does this truce look like in practice? After months of tense negotiations and escalating tariffs, both the United States and China have agreed to a significant, if temporary, pause in their ongoing trade dispute. This move is being closely watched by governments, businesses, and workers on both sides of the Pacific, as it signals a rare moment of cooperation between two economic giants. The U.S. suspended port service fees for vessels connected to China for 1 year, starting November 10, 2025. This means that any ship with ties to China, whether carrying Chinese goods or operated by Chinese companies, will not have to pay the usual service fees at American ports during this period. For many shipping companies, this represents a substantial reduction in operating costs, and it's a move that could help restore some predictability to a sector battered by uncertainty. In response, China matched the move, suspending its own retaliatory special port charges on American ships. This reciprocal action is a clear signal that both sides are willing to step back from the brink, at least for now, and try to stabilize the flow of goods between their countries. This reciprocal pause ensures neither side gains an unfair advantage. Ships from both nations now get equal treatment at each other's ports. The playing field is temporarily leveled, which is crucial for maintaining trust and fairness in international trade. It also helps prevent a costly tit-for-tat escalation that could have further disrupted global supply chains. The 1-year duration gives the shipping industry rare clarity, allowing companies to plan budgets and routes with confidence. For the first time in a while, shipping firms can look ahead and make decisions without the looming threat of sudden fee hikes or new restrictions. This stability is especially valuable for smaller businesses that lack the resources to absorb unexpected costs. For American exporters, it means lower costs to reach the Chinese market. Agricultural producers, manufacturers, and tech companies alike can now ship their goods overseas with fewer financial barriers. This could help boost exports and support jobs in industries that rely heavily on international sales. For importers, it helps keep prices stable. With fewer fees to pay, the cost of bringing goods into the U.S. is less likely to spike, which can help prevent price increases for everyday products on store shelves. Consumers may not notice the change immediately, but over time, these savings can add up. The suspension offers immediate financial relief, with benefits rippling through the economy. Lower shipping costs can lead to higher profits, more competitive pricing, and even new job opportunities in logistics and transportation. It's a rare win-win in a trade relationship often defined by conflict, but everyone knows this is a temporary fix, a ceasefire, not a peace treaty. The underlying issues that sparked the trade dispute in the first place, concerns over market access, intellectual property, and fair competition, remain unresolved. There's a sense of relief, but also caution, as no one is sure what will happen when the suspension ends. The underlying tensions remain, and the industry is left to enjoy the calm while it lasts. For now, ports are quieter, and business is running more smoothly, but everyone is aware that this could change quickly if talks break down or new disputes arise. The truce is a chance to reset, but not a guarantee of lasting peace. It's an opportunity for both sides to reconsider their positions and perhaps find common ground, but the future remains uncertain. Companies are using this time to strengthen relationships and prepare for whatever comes next. All eyes are on what happens next. Will this temporary suspension lead to a broader agreement, or is it just a brief pause before the next round of conflict? For now, the world waits and watches, hoping for a more stable and cooperative future in global trade. The port fee truce is just one piece of a much larger puzzle. Major disputes remain unresolved, like steep U.S. tariffs on Chinese-made ship-to-shore cranes, vital for port operations but now much more expensive. These tariffs slow modernization and make American ports less competitive, a problem the fee agreement didn't address. Another sticking point: U.S. licensing for liquefied natural gas exports to China, still hampered by regulatory hurdles. The truce didn't streamline LNG exports, leaving a lucrative trade route blocked. These lingering issues show the port fee suspension as a targeted fix, not a cure-all. The real test will be whether future negotiations can tackle these deeper economic disagreements. A huge question mark now hangs over the shipping industry. What happens when the one-year truce ends in late 2026? It's unclear if the suspension delays planned fee hikes or cancels them entirely, making long-term planning nearly impossible. Adding to the confusion, both governments are silent on refunds for companies that already paid the hefty fees before the truce. This leaves many in financial limbo, unsure if they can reclaim significant expenses. The lack of clarity creates anxiety, with companies forced to prepare for multiple possible outcomes. The relief is welcome, but the looming deadline brings a sense of dread. Will the truce be extended, replaced, or will fees snap back, possibly higher than ever? For now, no one knows. In this climate of uncertainty, shipping companies are urged to plan for the worst while hoping for the best. Experts recommend budgeting for the possible return of port fees in late 2026 and beyond, treating the suspension as a temporary windfall, not a permanent saving. This conservative approach helps companies avoid sudden financial shocks. Beyond budgeting, ship owners should update contracts to specify who pays if fees return, protecting themselves from unexpected costs. Clear contractual clauses can prevent disputes and shield companies from losses. Proactive risk management is essential in a world where government policies can change overnight. By making these adjustments, companies create a bubble of certainty in turbulent times. It's about controlling what you can, even when so much is out of your hands. The US-China port fee saga remains fluid and could change overnight. The one-year suspension is a temporary fix, and its fate beyond 2026 is uncertain. The shipping industry must stay alert, ready to adapt to new rules at any moment. Staying informed is critical. Companies need to monitor government and industry updates closely. The truce is just one chapter in the complex US-China relationship, with broader trade tensions simmering beneath the surface. Flexibility and vigilance are now essential for survival in global trade. The outcome of this dispute will shape the future of US-China relations and the global economy. For now, the world watches and waits to see if calm will hold, or if the storm will return.